What's going on YouTube? Photoman Knobs here with an exciting unboxing video of another Spyderco, one that I started to open as you can see, but have not gotten there yet. And this particular knife I am very excited for because I have been considering purchasing this particular model for quite a while and have been holding off in hopes that they would do an exclusive model, and then they did a couple of different exclusives. This is of course going to be the BladeHQ exclusive Spyderco Smock, and when they released the Smock BladeHQ exclusive the first go around, of course it was uncoated CPM M4 steel, and I do have the Rock Lobster in M4, but I knew that they would be doing a DLC or titanium carbon nitride coated variant. There we go. And as you can see right here, that is what this knife is. So went ahead and waited for it and was fortunate enough to be able to get one. They are sold out. They sold out in about 4 or 5 hours. I'm not sure exactly, but real quick, of course, as I mentioned, CPM M4 steel. So naturally, it's going to have this little card here stating that it is not a rust-proof stainless steel. Let's see, yes, the Spyderco sticker that has been included in all of the new Spyderco boxes, and I will get into the details on the Smock here in a second. And real quick, if you are curious, there is that exclusive paperwork, and you can pause the video right there if you want to read that. So getting into this, before I get started, a couple of things. I'll be doing a couple of shout outs later in this video, and I'm sure that I will not be the only one viewing this knife on YouTube, but here we are. So taking it out of the box, the blade centering is spot on, as is expected from a Taichung Taiwan Spyderco. There is that natural G10 scales, and I don't even know how to open this first. I don't know. Should I Spidey flick it? Let's go ahead. Oh, there we go. There's the Spidey flick. That is smooth. And apologize if there is going to be any background noise here in this video. It's starting to rain here in Florida. Shocker in the summer, but and let's go ahead and depress that button, and there it goes. Now you see this right here? Check that flipper. All right, and wow, the ergonomics back here are fantastic for sure, but I mean, you can see how far your knife, or far away your hand would be from the blade. Scooting up a little bit closer, not too bad. And then you actually can definitely use that as a finger choil, so very interesting. I'll talk about the design of this knife a little bit more, but getting into it, the overall length on this is going to be 8 inches. Your blade length is going to be 3.5 inches, but of course you can see the cutting edge is going to be substantially shorter at 3 inches exactly. Your blade width right here is going to be pretty much exactly 1 inch, and the blade thickness is going to be 0.12 inches. So relatively thin, you know, especially for a knife this size. A little bit thinner than the PM2, but still stout enough for all of the work you would need this knife to do. Your handle length is going to be 4.5 inches, and your handle width is going to be 1 inch, just like the blade. The handle thickness is going to be 0.45 inches, so not too bad in the pocket for sure. And then the one thing that I am very curious about, of course, with the stock pocket clip, is the weight. So it is advertised to come in at 3.64 ounces. And let's check that out, as I am fidgeting with this knife already. And 3.74 ounces is what it says on my scale. You can see right there. So not super lightweight, but not too bad, especially for an 8-inch overall knife. And you can see, as I mentioned earlier, this thing is titanium carbon nitride coated, and that is all across the board. You can see the liners, the pillars, backspacers, screws, pocket clip, of course. And one thing I did want to note before I address any of the other specs and details on this knife is that that coating, first off, it just looks really nice, and it seems to be very reflective. You know, of course, it is different than DLC coating. Here is a TLC coated Spyderco Manix 2 lightweight that I have had for over 6 years to show how it wears in. But you can see, you know, this is a lot shinier than it comes as stock, but this is significantly more reflective on the Smock. Now, what I really wanted to note though is my Spyderco Dragonfly 2, this one right here. You can see I love this pink colorway. Of course, part of the proceeds went to a foundation. You definitely need to check this knife out. Anyways, I've got a video on this, but you can see this actually has the same exact coating, or same material at least, as this Smock right here. Now, I don't know if it's the difference between the Taichung and Seiki City factory, because from the videos that I've seen, this is exactly how the finish on the Spyderco Tough, the DLT Trading exclusive, looked. But again, this is the same exact material, titanium carbon nitride. So not really sure what that reasoning behind that is, as I stated, but did want to point that out, and not sure if that will be covered in anyone else's videos or not. I've only seen one video on this knife so far. And that actually is going to lead me to a couple of quick shout outs real quick. First off being the knife video channel. I actually just watched his video on this knife earlier today, and he actually shouted me out in that video, so huge thank you to him. Him and I have had some correspondence via email, and of course have been commenting back and forth on each other's videos. I actually have watched his channel before I had even started my own YouTube channel, and really appreciate his love for Spydercos, especially. A couple of other quick shout outs. Just really wanted to give a thank you to Rusty Knife Lover for all your support and all of the comments that I receive, and on Instagram as well. And then another one is going to be Gruggs with Legion Tacticool Cutlery is the channel name. And Gruggs has been one of my biggest supporters from pretty much day one, and recently started a YouTube channel. And if you're into fixed blades, definitely would be a good channel for you, as would be, as I hit the box there, as would be Scab over at ChoirBoyz Cutlery, who has shouted me out, and just really appreciate all the work that he does for our veterans. But anyways, quick shout outs there in the middle of this video as I continue to fidget with this Spyderco Smock, and it is definitely breaking in. So the Spyderco Smock is based on the designer Kevin Smock's personal SK23 custom folder that he had produced. Of course, they wanted to bring it to the market on a production knife and at the Spidey hole. So you can see, I do want to note the Spidey hole, like a lot of the Taichung models, is partially covered up, not 100% exposed, but as you can see, that does not affect the Spidey flick whatsoever. You can do an index flick with it, middle, as I was showing. Ring finger flick, no problem. You can even pinky flick it. So you can open this knife with every single, as I fail on the thumb flick, that was actually pretty funny. And then what's especially cool is this really inconspicuous little flipper tab. So you can see it's really just a squared off little edge or tang of the bottom of the blade there. A very unique overall design. It was originally announced in 2018, and if memory serves me correct, I believe it hit the market at the beginning of 2019, and of course they've released a couple of exclusives. There was the Smooth G10 variant, and this is the second BladeHQ exclusive. The first one was released, I don't know, not even a month ago maybe. You can see this is featuring a hologram blade. I cannot stop fidgeting with it. My apologies there if you've made it this far into the video. Hologram blade, as I was stating, with this modified Warncliffe, which I honestly really like that blade shape for a utilitarian purpose, you know, just functionality of an EDC knife. And, you know, overall, I'm coming to like this knife as I'm fidgeting with it on this video. I held off from buying the Smock for a long time. I mean, of course, it's a really cool design. You know, you can see right there, especially because everything is coated black, the configuration of this knife with the ball bearing bronze washers in there, ball bearing pivot washers, excuse me, the secondary detent, which is separate from the locking detent. Obviously, this push button locking mechanism, which you can see right here, basically acts as an engagement for what is also basically a left-handed compression lock. So you can actually see right there the cutout for what would be the compression lock. And if you were a lefty, and if this did not have the push button lock, let's say that was cut out right there, you would depress it with your finger, just as you would with a paramilitary 2. And as I'm talking about that, may as well bring one out for example. You can see right there, of course, the compression lock is used on many Spyderco knives, but that is the really cool thing about this knife. And then there is that button lock. Now, looking at this, the centering on that button lock is not necessarily perfect. Now that probably is because of the tension when locked, and when it is, yep, that is exactly what I expected. So when closed, spot on. When open, you can see because it is attached to that little bar right there, the angle of that bar is going to then angle this little pillar, if you will, or push button, which is what it is. Then you can see the pivot construction in there and the detent balls. Just a really unique design overall. Really a fan of it. And as I was, getting into the reason I didn't get this knife for so long is a couple of things. So number one, the standard variant comes with S30V, nothing wrong with that. It also comes with the carbon fiber G10 scales, which also nothing wrong with that in my opinion. But it was just, I don't know, something about the overall package for the price and the look of the knife, well, I think is really cool. I love the look, it's funky for sure. The ergonomics, I really just did not think I would enjoy. And I'll admit, they're not, already it's not my favorite knife ergonomically by any means. I think back here it's actually very comfortable, especially if you were to have smaller hands than mine. But with the design of this knife, you can see, of course, the blade starts so far up to account for that push button lock. Of course, when it swings shut, you can't have the blade all the way up here, otherwise it would hit that lock bar. But at the same time, I would never need any more cutting edge than this. If you watch my channel, you'll know I'm a huge fan of the Dragonfly 2, which is a very short knife. And I really think that gripping it right here is definitely going to be probably the ideal position for me. If you were to push down, it's very comfortable for sure. The jimping is not too far up on the blade, you can see. So not too much jimping at all on this knife overall, but I just love the fact that it's got a really unique flipper tab, and you can still Spidey flick it with the Spidey hole there, or thumb hole, whatever you want to call it. Again, CPM M4 steel, stainless steel liners that you can see are milled out, which I actually love the design right here of the milling through the scales as well. Some aftermarket scales you can get would cover up those holes, of course. Did want to mention that if that's something that you would be interested in. And I will probably be swapping this out with an aftermarket clip, perhaps an MXG gear that I've got right there. We'll see. And I also may or may not be dyeing these scales. So let me know in the comments below if you think this would look good with some dyed scales. I've got red and purple and who would have thought teal Rit dye more available to use. And I should have done this earlier in the video, but I mean, let's be honest, if you're watching this video, more than likely you've seen another video on the Smock. If you have not, I'm gonna bring out a couple of other knives for comparison. Mentioned the Paramilitary 2 already. Definitely a very competitive knife overall. The Paramilitary 2 is a little bit cheaper overall when you're talking the base models, but you can see the cutting edge is significantly longer on the PM2, but the overall length is a little bit more comparable. And realizing I've got some stuff here, I don't know what that is, there we go. Figured I'd get it out of the picture. Taking out the knife that I opened the box with, you got the Spyderco Swish Bowie, another fantastic Taiwan design. I cannot speak right now for some reason. And one more Spyderco out for comparison. Got the BladeHQ Rock Lobster, in the uncoated CPM M4 steel, and you can see that is quite the combo right there, quite the pairing. A couple of very unique Spydercos, very unique knives overall, obviously. Very different. I will say one thing I love about the Smock is just, I love how streamlined it is, you know, very sleek profile, especially comparing it to something like the Rock Lobster, which is just a pretty large knife overall. And then the last comparison will be, just for the sake of it, the Chris Reeve Sebenza, just because I have one, may as well throw it in the video. Was a lifetime grail for myself, as you know if you watch my channel. But anyways, that will pretty much be doing it for this video. This is just an unboxing where I wanted to go over the knife. This is my first time handling the Smock, and I will say I absolutely love it. Another thing I love, just the design. You see, you know, this might bother some people, but the blade right there, the tip, you know, it's got a fair amount to go before you get to the edge of the actual scales and liners, and I love that. Some of the knives, when I'm closing them, you know, I'll press it, it'll come down, and I'll actually nest the bottom of the handle in my hand, and it'll come down. That was my biggest complaint actually with the Benchmade bug out. It'll come down and then it will actually hit my hand as it is nested in there. So just something small, you know, nitpicky that affects me and probably not a whole lot of people. But anyways, as always, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and I will be dropping some links to the channels that I shouted out in this video. I will definitely be doing some more shout outs in the future, and I will of course be providing an update on if I will be keeping this knife or not. I'll be honest with you, I am leaning towards it. It's a little bit heavy for the overall cutting edge in my opinion, but I mean, the only other way you can get a knife like this would be if you went the Blades We Love route and got the paramilitary 2 with the push button lock, which I don't know, I might be doing at some point in the future too. We'll see. But I really appreciate everyone watching, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day or evening whenever you are watching this. Thanks.